Season 10 is upon us with a newly reworked Infernal Horde system. We get new offerings and a new powerful boss encounter called Bartok. But the question is, why would you farm it in Season 10? It is one of the most efficient ways to get the new season mechanic called Chaos Armors, but also gold, Obdicite, and Scrolls of Restorations are very easy to get from here. You do get a lot of this, and with gold being such in high demand this season, this is actually a pretty efficient way to get it. In order to enter the Infernal Horde, you do need something called Infernal Compasses. You have access to this now in the earlier levels through fleeting compasses. However, you need to wait until the Torment 1 versions, so the 6-wave, 8-wave, and 10-wave Infernal Compasses, in order to get the most powerful rewards from it. You get these Infernal Compasses by doing all kinds of content in the game, such as Whisper Caches, Hell Tides, Nightmare Dungeon completion rewards, Pit, Seasonal Reputation, etc. It's basically everywhere. One of the most efficient ways to get it is arguably doing the Chaos Rifts in Nightmare Dungeons and then leveling up the Seasonal Journey on an alt, but you can also find them very efficiently in places like Hell Tides. The new boss encounter, Bartok, is actually incredibly important that you summon. This means that you need to get 666 Aether to even fight him to begin with. When you do kill him on Torment difficulties, you will have a chance of getting a Chaos Armor. However, you are guaranteed one when you're fighting him on Torment 3 or above. You also get about 50 million gold on Torment 4, 7,000 Obdicite, and 4 Scrolls of Restoration. If you're just looking at the most gold efficient option, just skip Bartok and do the normal bosses and dump all of your Aether into the gold chest instead. If you want to find out more about Bartok and what he does, you can find a link to his boss article in the description below. But the big question that most people face when they're playing Infernal Hordes is, what option is the most efficient? One of the most efficient ways of getting Aether is actually the Aether Lord route. Basically, how the Aether Lord strategy works is that you want to have Colossal Fiends. Colossal Fiends is a offering that turns your Aether Fiend spawn into Aether Lords, and this will happen for any Aether Fiend spawn that would happen. You then want to stack that with ways to spawn more Aether Fiends, such as the Fiendish Legions, which makes Aether Fiends have a chance to spawn in the place of elites. Other good options for this strategy is the Teeming Masses offering, which makes you have a 50% chance to spawn an Aether Fiend on death, and then pair that with the Massing Masses, which gives Masses a 30% chance to reform when they're killed. So if you're not getting any other good upgrades, you can just go anything that makes Masses spawn more frequently as well when you're doing the Aether Lord setup. Other popular combinations seems to be Aether Mass spawning, which means you're basically killing, respawning Aether Masses and they spawn more events, which gives you more Aether, etc. This is very efficient, but slightly less efficient than the Aether Lord route. An incredibly powerful strategy is actually stacking the Soul Spire rewards. If you're playing a ranged or minion build though, I would recommend against this. For the Soul Spires to basically deplete, you need enemies to die within the Soul Spires, unlike they did before, where you can stand in the Soul Spire and any enemy that died around you would just give you credit anyway. This is not the case anymore. They need to run into the Soul Spire and then die in order for you to get credit. This basically means that for builds like Dance of Knives, you don't want to go the Soul Spire route, because you're always going to be killing things around you. The Soul Spire strategy is kind of weird because all of its upgrade states that you will spawn them less frequently. However, if you pair them with the Masses upgrade, such as the Anchored Masses, which makes Masses have a 50% chance to spawn a Soul Spire on death, with the offering that makes Masses have a chance to reform on death, you can actually get a lot of extra Soul Spires that give you a lot of extra Aether. From playtesting, though, it doesn't seem like the Hellborn option is actually as good as it was before Season 10. The ambushing Hellborn never seems to spawn, and it just doesn't generate enough Aether, so do stick with the other strategies for now, until either it gets fixed or until we figure out what's going on with it. Another strategy that has been kind of fun is watching people just do big Gamba runs where they just pick every Chaos Rift and hope that they get the Chaos Rift, which gives you goblins. These goblins gives you so much Aether that you end the run with at least 1,500, if not more, without any problems, regardless if you're doing a 6-wave Infernal Compass or like a 10 one, right? It doesn't really matter. You're getting a lot of it. A very important part of optimizing your Aether gain is figuring out that when you're going a specific strategy, what is the most cost efficient upgrade to pick? Sometimes that might be gambling and going for a Chaos Rift in order to get a little bit more because the other options are bad, or going something like the Aether Goblins offering, or the Stalking Devil, or other flat rewards which doesn't impact the spawn of other events that you're trying to fish for. To give you a quick little TLDR, what I personally go for when I'm farming in Infernal Hordes, I would go for every Aether Lord and Aether Fiend upgrade if I get them early. Otherwise, I would go for masses synergy, where I go for anything that has to do with masses. And if I'm playing something like melee, I would go for a Soulspire upgrade. At any time where I'm not finding what I want, I go for the special events, such as the Burning Rain if I need to early on, the Aether Goblins, which gives me a chance of spawning a Treasure Goblin, or the Infernal Butcher. Any of those would just give you a good flat reward and might be better than having a bad event spawn more frequently. If you're curious about basically all the different available offerings and which combinations to go, you can find the Infernal Hordes guide in the description below. Once we have enough data, we will also update the Infernal Horde optimization article in our meta section over at Maxroll. And with that, I will say goodbye for this time, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, goodbye.